Awesome. And then without further ado, who we're all waiting to hear from. And this is not to put any pressure on Rosa because her joy and her personality and everything about her is super infectious. So I'm very excited to introduce her. Our guest of honor, who we're working with, is from the College of Southern Idaho, which you all know is a friend and a peer amongst RCCA. You all have worked with Jonathan and the rest of the administration. So I'm thrilled to introduce Rosa here. So Rosa, if you would like to introduce yourself, take a couple of minutes before we dive into the slide presentation. The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Rosa Lopez, Dean of Students. Been at the College of Southern Idaho. It's 14 years. It's going to be 3 years as the Dean of Students here in October. I started at CSI back in, wait a date, May 2008 as a student, and I have never left. I love being a Golden Eagle, love higher education, love the community college aspect. And so I have that experience of being a student here, but also now being an administrator and implementing different strategies, different practices, events, and activities to make sure that our students have that sense of belonging the moment they step onto campus. So I'm happy to be here. Happy that you guys are here as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Rosa, again for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know there's probably a line of students waiting to say hi to you and catch up on their day and ask all their questions. So I really appreciate you taking the hour to be with us. One of the things that I enjoy with Mentor Collective, I was a partner with Mentor Collective for almost 4 years at my institution, and it's truly a partnership. Mentor Collective, we don't define mentorship. Mentorship is really defined at the institution, and it really takes the buy-in of folks like Rosa, Jonathan, and the rest of the College of Southern Idaho administration, faculty, and staff. So I'm really excited to hear from her, especially as somebody who has a really strong affinity to CSI, having been a student, a graduate there, and is now giving back in this capacity. So, just like to preface with that. So, who we are, Mentor Collective. Chris shared a little bit about it, but I'll give a quick synopsis of Mentor Collective. We were founded in 2014, and our co-founders are actually where I'm at here, which is in Indiana. I'm at a community college conference, Innovations, right now, and was actually spreading the good word about RCCA to a lot of folks who came to our booth. And so they started here, actually in international student affairs. One of the co-founders was studying abroad. The other one was an international student. And as they crossed paths, they were talking about, what would be nice if we had mentorship. And someone kind of guided us through this. And then that's when it evolved into this idea of why don't we create a platform that excels and amplifies the mentorship experience. And then from there, it went from international student affairs to general student affairs and student success to provost offices, and it became really a driver in terms of student success strategy. And then it evolved into career workforce development and how do we help develop faculty and staff, and how can we impact students sooner when they're going through enrollment processes or as dual credit students. So over the last 10 years or so, the company really evolved to be all encompassing every sort of facet within higher education, as well as also working with corporate sponsorships, whether it's small mom and pop organizations to big organizations such as Amazon and JP Morgan. We've really expanded our reach, really with the goal and intent of coming back into higher ed and seeing how can we elevate the student experience sooner, more impactful, and then ultimately provide information for our institutions, valuable data that allows for you all to make critical strategic decisions. And so through that process, as we were really going for that mission, we earned the endorsement of Lumina Foundation, of Strata. We've followed NACE competencies, and then we made it a priority to align ourselves with incredible organizations such as RCCA. So we're really thrilled to see the progress that we've made, but there's so much more work to be done. And, even Rosa will talk a bit about that, of how, her program has evolved and how it's going to continue to evolve and everything like that. So I'm hoping for the audience today, because we'll definitely have some time for Q&A to start considering, what are those strategic goals that you have in mind, and maybe what are the multiple facets in which we can utilize mentorship as that strategic engine. So, without further ado, our agenda is going to be covering today's landscape. Why is mentorship more important now than ever? Talking about our approach and how Mentor Collective partners with our institutions such as CSI and our other RCCA partners. Success Spotlight, which is going to be really with Rosa going a deep dive into Q&A with her. and a discussion. So, of course, that Q&A, as well as also opening up the floor to the rest of the audience here today. So, without further ado, let's go into today's landscape. And really, it's about the engagement gap. How many of y'all feel strongly that your students are maximizing their engagement opportunities at your colleges by a show of hands? Do you feel like it? I'm only doing it by example. I didn't feel like it as a student, but I'm looking around the room, right? No, and that's not to any of our faults, right? It's really the community college is built, and honestly is my preference in terms of it is multifaceted, it is adaptable, it is agile. Um, but it is not what you consider like a Big Ten school or a SEC school where you come in and you join a bunch of clubs and you go tailgate and all these things. No, it's about the quality of education. It's about serving the community, bolstering the local economy. But that doesn't mean that students don't have the ability to join clubs or join student government or be an athlete or be a part of support groups or be a part of a veterans group, right? But many times, what we have found through our research over the last decade or so is that, especially at the community college level, they're just simply not aware of it. And it doesn't mean that the colleges don't have that provided. It's just how do we ensure that our students are utilizing it and getting their needs met, not just eventually, but at the point of when they are first inquiring about it, right? So we know offering resources sometimes just isn't enough. It's about utilizing it, right? As a former administrator, I would be asked all the time, would be audited all the time and be like, who is using what? Who's using our career center? Who's using our tutoring resources? And if you don't have enough data, what typically happens, y'all? It's going to get cut. And that's like the most painful thing because you know students need it. You know it's there for a critical mission-driven reason, but if they're not utilizing it, it's then going to be displaced. That can have some significant consequences. So while we know there's true value in having the resources, engagement is what's going to foster that utilization and get students the help that they need, right? So that's where we really started to drive towards how can mentorship provide that engagement. Okay. And this is where we come in and see that mentorship provides the needs. So while many of the resources see load utilization, the data is telling us that the learners are still hungry for it, right? So the first stat that says 82% seek more proactive and personalized support, that came from a Gallup survey. So this came from hundreds of thousands of students, specifically community college students, who are like, we want a more proactive and personalized support system, right? Which for community colleges is something that you're doing. Um, but it's like, how do we get to that? And so in both a Gallup survey and then a higher ed dive survey that we partnered with, we found that students are 9 times more likely to share information with peers than staff. And why might that be? Because their peers are oftentimes more relatable, and I think even more important, are a bit more informal than us faculty and staff and administrators, right? For example, you're going to hear from Rosa. Everybody loves Rosa. I love Rosa. From the first 5 seconds I met her, I'm like, she's got it, right? And when I've met you all at the RCCA conference in Union, Missouri, I'm like, y'all have it. It's not that students don't like you, but there's this invisible barrier, right? Like we've seen it where students just are intimidated or imposter syndrome or whatever it may be, are just simply not opening up to their needs, even when you ask them and be like, how can I help you? But when you remove that formality with somebody who has shared experiences, whether they're a non-traditional student, a working single parent, not from the same area, maybe they're new to the area, having those bits of relatability allows them to be more comfortable and open up. And that's where we can start to uncover and unpack the critical issues that are maybe holding our students back so that we can give them the resources that we're trying to get them to utilize. So that's where we say mentorship is the solution. Mentorship is a must have. And I've seen it firsthand, and Rosa's going to talk a little bit about this in a moment about how
Can
she
I
sees it
share an
firsthand.
example?
Yeah, please do. Absolutely.
This has happened last night. So when you're talking about it, it just reminded me. So we have a student here who's looking at deciding between Rad Tech and Search Tech and didn't really know the behind the scenes of what an actual Search Tech does day in and day out. Well, I know one of our prior students who just graduated 2 years ago is in the Search Tech here at our local hospital, but also got her first assist credentials as well. And so the student was just like, I don't know between grad tech or search tech. And I said, what's stopping you? She's like, I don't really know the major differences. So we talked about the finances, and I said, enough hearing from me because I'm not in that program. I don't know the ins and outs. And I said, would you like me to connect you to somebody that I know that graduated 2 years ago who's in that program, loves it, and can give you a behind the scenes information of what to do, what not to do, what are the struggles, what are the positives. And we took them out to dinner yesterday, and just watching them connect and just talk about the things that I couldn't talk about as a staff member, the struggles that she went through, but also the successes she's having right now was key. And they actually ended up exchanging numbers at the end of the day. And I said, this connection is formed. Now you guys can continue if you decide to go through the Surge Tech program or not. You have somebody that works at our local hospital that can also now connect you to a rat tech or anybody else that you're looking at, either nursing or whatever. You now have that connection. And I'm like, this is why I value making connections and networking and then creating that mentorship and allowing it to fruition between the two. And so it was just a great experience that happened yesterday that I just kind of filled my cup of like, we've got this program, but also just the networking and connections that being in the positions that we're in brings us to connect our students to something that I really am passionate about and I love.
That's incredible. By the way, this is not scripted. This is literally the first time I'm hearing this.
It
Um,
happens last night.
yeah, that's that's amazing. And I'll say even, Rosa, quickly to that point, like looking at this slide, it's like thinking about it. I know because Rosa and I have these conversations frequently. It's just like how many of these students are not reaching out, like that we're not capturing. And this is what the data shows. We've interviewed and asked thousands of our students, and this is what they responded back with, that they almost three-fourths of them report hesitating to reach out for a variety of reasons. The top three reasons are listed there. And same thing for mentors. About a third of them report hesitating to reach out again for those similar reasons. So, to that point, how can we break that down and encourage and strengthen that self-confidence for both the mentees and mentors so that we do get more instances like Rosa just shared, so that she can capture that information and direct them to the right resources. And so that's where for us we talk about the path to that impact. And Rosa will talk about in a minute when I ask her the particular programmatic questions. I don't know why. Sorry, my screen sharing just paused for some reason. There we go. Okay. Now you can see the slide here. Sorry, that was weird. So you can see the path to impact. So what we do is that we try to meet the students where they are, and where they're at is their phones. I don't know if you can see. Literally, I'm a part of a few mentorship programs through Mentor Collective. One of them is with a community college, and I literally was texting them on the way to finding this spot here. So what's great is that your mentees, which are established by the college, get invited by Mentor Collective. Rosa also talks about the ways that College of Southern Idaho invites students and how our other partners do it. But on the simplification, they get a text, they get emails notified. It meets them where they're at on their phones. There's also flyers and on the smart boards, on the big projector screens in your student unions and student centers and things like that, where people can scan, sign up, and get that mentor. From there, they can access the rest of their process from their phone. They take a few seconds to register and confirm their information, a lot of times through SSO. So we technologically work with your IT team to make sure if it's compatible, if your institution has that, we figure out a secure way to get them to sign up. They take a few minutes, often, most times, over 80% of the time, on their phones to answer a few questions in what we call a matching survey. And we work on that customization with folks like Rosa and her boss, Jonathan, and the team to make sure, one, we're asking relevant questions to our mentees, but furthermore, from a data perspective, what are the insights that, in this case, College of Southern Idaho needs to download for not just their reporting purposes as they bring it up to the Board of Trustees, but also from the sense of if they're going to create action plans for their students, they need to make sure that the evidence is tangible and relevant to what their needs are. So the mentees complete their process there. So usually in an average of about 5 minutes, they're signed up, ready for the program. The mentors go through a similar process where they get registered, they complete a matching survey. At the end of that matching survey is a code of conduct that they sign before they submit the matching survey. And then the often question I get is, how do you vet the mentors? They go through a training process. So there's a 1 hour asynchronous training that we've compiled materials from NACE, from Lumina Foundation, from Strata, that goes into how the fundamentals of mentorship. So imagine your students are now getting leadership development, professional development in this training. They have 4 modules that they have to complete. They need to score an 80% or higher in order to pass the training. Once they pass the training, then they again sign, again, agreeing about, with logging conversations, if they hear something to say something, or our flagging system, all the essentials so that way they can be the most effective mentor possible. When they complete that, we then notify when a match is happening, both by phone and by email. So that way, as you can see in that picture, you can start your first conversation from your phone. And from there, the phone conversations are happening through a protected SMS text relay. So they're not using their real cell phone numbers. They're not revealed as a 5-digit number that they use in a chat feature. And so just like a regular text. From there, through our applications, we also guide them into, how to set up a meeting in person. So you can see in that example to the right, or FaceTime and Zoom through our schedule assist feature. We also encourage the ability to send emails. A lot of times in our career mentorships at the community college level, a lot of interactions are happening with email because that's where their mentors at, and also is a great professional development opportunity for them. So from there, we're fostering and supporting and coaching the engagement aspect of it. And that's what's allowing for the mentees to really get these fruitful relationships and also develop the mentors, which Rosa will talk about how her team has set up a really great, robust system with paid mentors, but about 75% of our partners actually utilize the volunteer method, but you still adopt Rosa's principles to still coach and build up your mentors and really make this incredible leadership and professional development opportunity. And what that results into is engagement. And the last thing that I'll dive into from really a logistical standpoint is the return of investment on engagement. For the last almost decade or so, we've been preaching this what we call rule of three at Mentor Collective. We always had this hypothesis that if a mentor and a mentee log or have 3 conversations, that it becomes a valuable and impactful mentorship. Why? Because it shows that they are engaged, that is fruitful, that is meaningful, and that needs are being met. So over the last almost decade, we did this research, and what we found was that mentorships that had conversations of at least 3 or more log conversations led to an 11% increase in retention. At College of Southern Idaho, I believe the number that we saw was just under 10%. I think it was 9.9, 9.8, something like that. Rosa, I know you can update the numbers there. But the point is, from a retention standpoint, it shows significance. And so what we use with our tools is to support folks like Rosa and her students to get to that at least 3 point. And of course, the more conversations that you log, that number also starts to get higher. So that's really where Mentor Collective comes in, is how can we support and foster that engagement so that way the institution can get more of the valuable insights that you crave so that you can make the best and most critical decisions. So that's a bit of our approach. This is a more formalized slide. The slide deck is going to be shared with you all, but I'm also taking a look at the time, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for Rosa to answer some questions. So if any of y'all have questions in terms of really the formality in terms of the process, I kind of just verbally brought it up. This is the visual that goes over it. I would love to go over it a little bit more with y'all at another time. Um, and then this visual, before we go into sort of the Q&A and Rosa talking more about her program, is the support of that life cycle. So in that last slide that I went over that had the 4 graphics, this slide really breaks down more thoroughly in terms of how we get to that ROI in the rule of three. So in step one, we do preparation, so personalized AI generated prompts for conversation sparks. The conversation sparks generally come up, and Rosa can talk about this. They generally come up if it's for mentorships that are struggling with engagement. So, like Rosa has a lot of mentors that are super engaged. I mean, We're not even halfway through this semester and they're already at like 30 plus conversations logged, right? Like they're outstanding. So they're not going to see a whole lot of AI generated prompts because they're rocking and rolling. Like they are going. So the prompts are there to help students as an additional coaching tool if they need to. Step two, there's a scheduling feature called Scheduling Assist that allows for the mentorships to find times in the day. Oftentimes we get asked, well, how can we encourage mentorships if they're able to meet on campus or, have those more like verbal conversations, whether it's over the phone or FaceTime. The Scheduling Assist allows for the mentees and the mentors to find those times that work out well for them. Obviously, that leads into connectivity, which then also goes into the reflection. So you've heard a few times, and Rosa will dive a little bit deeper into this, is the information that you all get that gets downloaded is through what we call conversation logs. The conversation logs are the insights that the mentors and mentees who both can log them are sharing from their experiences in the conversations that they've had with their mentor. So let's say Rose is my mentor, and I just reflected to her that like, hey, thanks for referring me to student government. I went to their info session. I'm really interested, but at the same time, I just struggled in my stats exam. So like I don't even know if college is right for me, honestly, at this point. Like I feel kind of ashamed and everything like that. Rosa in that moment is like, oh, hey, awesome, great. I'm glad that student government was awesome. I advise it, so no duh, it's awesome. But um I hear you're struggling with stats. Like, tell me a little bit more and, start to get to the root of it. And what Rosa can find there is like in that conversation, she's going to log down and be like, hey, I'm referring Andrew, my mentee, to the tutoring support center. I'm also going to refer him to the academic advising center. But I'm going to submit this flag in my log conversation so that way I can reflect the good stuff. Like, hey, Andrew got joy out of student government. That might increase his sense of belonging, but also he's struggling with something on the side. So it allows for Rosa to have that complete message while myself as the mentee, I'm logging. I might say something about student government, but I might focus more on I'm struggling here in stats. So Rosa's conversation, she can submit a flag there, and that leads into step five. That flag then gets routed to the program administrator, which ironically in this case is Rosa. So sorry, Rosa, I'm using you as the mentor. You're flagging yourself. But also what institutions do is that let's say you don't have a Rosa and you need to be able to send it to multiple departments. You can do that. There's ways to link your academic advising center, your tutoring center, financial aid inquiries, send them straight to your financial aid counselors, your counseling centers and whatnot. So when the flag gets submitted, it goes directly to those resources as well to the program administrator. That allows for the institution to address that flag before it's too late, before the student falls through the crack. Because even though Andrew, the mentee in that situation, looks like he's going to join student government, is going to be a student leader, we need to make sure and address the silent issue, which was he reflected, I'm struggling in this class. How can we make sure that Andrew gets the help he needs to complete the class so that he can get into student government and then cross the finish line and maybe transfer to a great institution like Boise State, like his mentor Rosa did, right? So that's where the reflections become not only a great journaling tool, we know the value of that. It's intuitive, it's through texting, or if they're on their computer, they can log it from their computer. But it also allows for the mentor to quickly be able to say, hey, I can help you. Let me help you. Let me reach out to somebody without feeling like they're tattling. They're it builds that confidence in terms of with sense of belonging of I know that there are resources at College of Southern Idaho, right? It goes back to the earlier slides of how do we emphasize the resources that we have and how can we utilize them. The flagging piece that is connected to the reflecting piece is what brings that to the forefront. It allows for the resource to then come to me, the mentee, Andrew. I will get reached out by my academic advising officer or my academic advisor. The tutoring center will reach out to me. Now I'm getting appointments set up. And at places like College of Southern Idaho, that can be virtual. So even when I'm working at Chobani or something like that locally in town, they can work with me. I don't have to come to campus. But guess what? I'm connected to campus even when I'm at my Chobani plant or I'm at home or I'm walking my dog. College of Southern Idaho has met me where I'm at. I now can see and feel the resources that I'm utilizing. And what that does is into step six, now I can review and when I look back on the situation, I'm going to become a person who not only joins student government, not only crosses the finish line as a mentee, but now I'm going to review and be like, how can I be a mentor? Now you're creating this cycle, this culture of belonging, of increasing self-efficacy, of self-helping. and you're increasing your utilization of resources, which is going to help more students cross the finish line. And ultimately, that's what we're here for, right? We want to see our students succeed. So not only are you giving them people to network and build fruitful relationships, but now you're getting information that's going to allow them to help them in the situation, and also think long term about what can we do for future students and address their issues and their needs before they even come to campus. So that's why we do what we do. Now, I'm
Andrew,
going to
can I jump
pause.
in the flags real
Yes.
quick?
Yes. You want me to go back? You want me to go back to the last slide,
No,
or can I?
no,
Okay.
you're good. Yeah. So the flags, the way we have them set up right now is all the flags come to me, and I can see if the student is struggling like academically, if they're needing, if they're struggling with food insecurity, which my office oversees the food pantry, or if they need tutoring. So I will give our mentors that information or get them connected, and then our mentors can then take their mentees there. Or if the mentee has requested that and a CSI staff member reach out to them, we allow that to happen. But I kind of filter all of those flags. Luckily for us, we don't get a ton of flags because if not, that'd be a little overwhelming. But I'm able to see where our students are struggling and then kind of formulate a timeline of in October, our students are really struggling with mental health, and in March, they're also struggling with mental health. So maybe we need to cater a little bit more programming efforts to those topics to help serve our students as a whole. Because if we're seeing it in our mentorship program with the people that are mentees, we're probably seeing it across the institution. And so those flags are crucial for me to also get a feeling of where our students are at, but also maybe from a training standpoint where I need to maybe focus a little bit more and provide those resources to our mentors. So just wanted to share that.
No, I appreciate that. In fact, Rosa, if you're okay to keep talking, I would love to actually open the floor and let's talk more about CSI. Let me just I apologize. I've been running around at this conference. So I want to make sure Rosa, let me know what the next few slides are yours. But I'd love to give you the floor. Share a little bit more about your incredible institution, home of the Golden Eagles. Yeah, open up. We'd love to learn a little bit more about your institution. Hopefully, our constituents here, our friends here, can kind of feel some relatability in terms of like CSI to their institution. So I'll give you the floor, my friend.
Absolutely. So as Andrew said, we are home of the Golden Eagles. Our colors are black and gold, which we wear very proudly. Our campus is actually in a circle. So we always joke that you can never get lost. Just keep walking in the circle. Right where you see the sign is actually the outer circle, and it's 1 mile. So during the summer, right now it's actually really pretty outside. We have a lot of community members that come onto campus and walk their dogs or just go out for an evening jog or a walk. We have no parking passes that are required, so our campus is open to all of our community, all of our students, all our faculty. And it's just a beautiful place to be in. We've had a couple international students that call. If you're from Idaho, you know it's very rural, very ag based. But when you come on a campus, they've called it's a forest within a desert because there's so many beautiful trees, an amazing rose garden in the center, and they love it. And then they leave campus and they're like, "What is it?" But it's a great place to be. Like I said earlier, I've been here for 14 years, going on 3 years as a dean of students, and I love the impact that we have on our students as the daily. And as we're all aware, we're on higher ed. As the cultural landscape kind of changes, it kind of makes you reflect and think about how do you serve your students best? What are the needs to make sure that we are able to retain our students? So a little bit about CSI. We're founded in 1965. So just last year we celebrated our 60th anniversary with some fun events and activities. While our main campus is located in Twin Falls, we do have two extension centers, one in Burley and one in Jerome. Burley is serving a little bit more students than Jerome, but Jerome is getting a brand new, bigger building to expand the workforce needs that we also have in Jerome County. Our numbers are a little bit outdated. They're 23, 24, but they're still kind of reflective. Higher in the dual credit, though, we're over, I think it's 14,000 in dual credit students right now, which I think most schools are seeing a higher dual credit rate than our full-time equivalency. And our main focus is academic, but we also have a lot of CTE programs to help drive what we do here in the Magic Valley. On our student enrollment profile, most of our students are part-time students. Again, a lot of our students are commuter students just based on where we're located in the Magic Valley. 94% are actual residents here from Idaho. And we have a small population of individuals that are international, either they're athletes or they're coming because they've had family members come to the institution. So we see a little bit of diversity there. Our ratio is 63 to 36 female to male. And we do tend to see that dual credit really changes that number of 17 and younger. But we have a lot of 18 to 19-year-olds, and we're actually doing some efforts to recruit our non-trad students right now with a specific non-trad recruiter. So how do we define success? I want to give you guys two answers. I want to give you what's in our strategic plan and our goals, but also more of a personalized dean of students perspective. So we have four strategic goals. One's cultivate community engagement. The other one's optimize student success. Drive student success is the third, and the fourth is ensure institutional stability. The drive student success is aligning quality and innovative educational programs to meet the demands of our students, but also the state of Idaho. And so we're constantly assessing what the workforce needs of Idaho are and what our students are wanting. We're about an hour, 30, hour 45 from our major four-year partner institutions. And so we are all trying to serve the unique population of students that are in our area. And so we're constantly looking at those programs that are in need. Our in-demand careers also help drive those from the state level. But we're also looking at what can we do to remove the barriers for students to access the College of Southern Idaho and actually obtain a higher education degree. So constant assessment of where our students are at. And then the last one is developing student support to make sure that our students feel supported and have an equitable environment while they're here at the College of Southern Idaho. So broad perspective of how we define that. For me, I would define literally, like Andrew said, if I open up my door, there are students right there. I can literally hear them doing the next TikTok trend or laughing or doing whatever shenanigans they like to do at this time of the day. But it's making sure that our students feel safe and secure and connected for me that drives student success. While we have a mission to make sure that our students finish on time, we all know that some students need to take a little bit less credits just to be able to finance their education, but also their personal lives and families. And for me, it's looking at what we do on a daily. What events and activities are we doing to cater to all of our students, not just our traditional 18 to 19-year-olds, but how do we reach our non-trads? How do we get them involved with the resources of tutoring, our food pantry, our student leadership, we just did a Zen room for our students that may be neurodivergent or just struggling to be in a loud, confined space. We literally just changed a room just for them. And so just trying to find anything and everything to connect our students so that they have a sense of belonging the moment they step onto our institution, and that kind of just monitor them as they go through all of the different programs and assess, are they in Bridge to Success? Are they in tutoring? Are they in leadership? Are they visiting the library? Are they participating in the cafeteria? Like consistently assessing those and making them better to provide more of a robust service that the moment the student walks on, they feel welcomed and they feel like this is home and they can navigate all of the services and understand that we're constantly looking at what is the next best thing to do for them. Because as we all know, no 2 years are the same for our students, and we're getting in a wave of students that looks at things very differently, that is consistently on their phone. And so just looking how to navigate that student success as a whole, that it may look like this for 1 year, but next year we have to kind of define that and change it to fit the new group of students that we have.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Rosa. That was a really
Of
thorough.
course.
I expect nothing less from you, but that was a really thorough and robust way of explaining, like, well, especially with like you mentioned in two slides before, the various student populations that you're having, and it's unique. Like my community college had a good amount of like 18 to 24-year-olds. So like it's funny, we work with my alma mater, Sacramento City College. And so they're trying to recruit more of the non-traditional and the
Yeah.
CTE and those kind of things. But it's interesting to hear your impact of like actually we're trying to get more of the 18 and 19-year-olds, but then also in terms of with the utilization of the resources there, the ways that you're assessing them and everything like that. So really appreciate you opening up and sharing about that. So tell us a bit more about your program. I'll open the floor. Here's just a few questions, but I know Rosa, you're going to cover this and some other questions we didn't put on this slide. So yeah, Rosa, go ahead and tell us a bit more about your specific program.
Absolutely. So we started a mentorship program back in 2022, 2023, with literally just like a pen and paper or like an Excel sheet. Don't laugh, Andrew, because we talked about this. Like
Oh yeah,
that,
I did the same thing too before I had Mentor Collective. So that's why I always laugh and be like, oh, another person and same.
yeah, we literally had an Excel, and we kind of sent out a Microsoft Forms to kind of get student buy-in and what they needed. And so we just matched based on people's personalities, met with them, kind of figured out who would best serve as their mentor. And so it started out very rough, making connections with individuals and walking through that, defining the goals as we kind of went along through the year. And it really showed that our students were missing that connection with fellow peers. And so we developed, in the next year, we actually developed a student council called Eagle Leads, which I oversee as well. And they are solely paid. It's a $900 to $1,000 scholarship, depending on if you're an executive or not. And you have a certain amount of hours that you're supposed to be reaching out to mentees, doing events and programming to also do more outreach to students. They have office hours here in our office to be able to learn about Gilbert's Pantry, which is our student food pantry, all of the resources, make connections with faculty and staff, make connections with administrators, be able to get the voice out of what we're doing. And so we formulated that council, then we went to student government, which I also oversee, and asked them if they would fund this mentorship program. They fund strictly the scholarship allotment. The institution, the College of Southern Idaho, actually pays for us to have the programming, which has turned to be very beneficial for us and how we handle our student fees. But also know that we have institutional support to do the work that we do on a daily. I'm just hiring students to be able to be those peer connectors. And so we started it in 2023, 2024. Huge success. Literally went from writing pens and paper and like Excels and moving people and matching them this way to having a program that does it all for me. I submit the list of who the mentors are, how many individuals they can be matched with. We send out a mass email to all of our students about becoming mentees and what the benefits of those are. Mentor Collective also has the opportunity to engage with our students and send them very specific emails, but our institution has decided that we are going to initiate that, just so that it doesn't come off of like it's an external. If you're a Microsoft team, you know it literally tells it's an external email, and our students don't pay attention to those. And so we send out those initial program invites to get them in, but then we supplement those with the different programming events and activities that we do throughout the semesters to also reach out to our students. And in this past year, we actually made it one of our goals to implement a snack cart. If you're a college student or even as an employee, we all love food, we all love snacks, the best. So we implemented a snack cart that our students load with a bunch of snacks, and then they take it to different buildings at different times to engage with students, to talk about mentorship, but more importantly, to engage with those students and check in and let them know that they're supported and that we care for them and open up that conversation literally over some fruit snacks or a Powerade or some chips that are very popular amongst our students, especially the spicy chips. And so we've implemented that as a new way to connect with our students in a less formal way. We are now out approaching our students in different buildings versus expecting students to come to the student union building to attend our events and activities. And we started with a goal of about 150 students in our program, and this year we've surpassed it. I think we're closer to 370, 392, I think is when I looked at it. But we've also added in our Bridge to Success program. So our students that are struggling, that are on student satisfactory academic progress, we've added them into the mentorship program so that they're also being supported from a different, not necessarily from a peer. They do have that option, but they're actually supported by an entire program that has their staff in there connecting with them either through email, through phone, face-to-face visits, text messages. So our program is open to any and all students that want to have a peer connection. And we're actually looking at adding in the career platform that Andrea talked about to also help our students that are in the workforce field be able to make those connections. Why did we prioritize mentorship? It actually came from a conversation that our boss had, my boss, Jonathan Lord, who's our vice president, about looking at a different way to serve our students. And the moment he said, "Hey, I think this is a good idea," I'm like, "Yep, let's go, let's do it. Let's see how this works for our students." I'm like fully being transparent. Like, it's gonna be hard if I'm gonna do this on pencil and paper, but I'll do it for 1 year to kind of see, and then let's look at a platform that we can institutionalize to help serve the needs of our students and make it a lot easier. The heavy lift isn't on you as an employee. The heavy lift Mentor Collective does. The matching, the all of those types of things, it's all done behind the scenes. And then your mentors get text messages saying, "You've been matched with X person, please reply." And then that message goes out to all through the hidden SMS message. So your phone is never the one that's actually, your phone number is not the one that's actually messaging them, for that reason, that it also on the back end keeps all of those informations collected through Mentor Collective. So you don't even have to go in and say, "I've done 3 conversations, I've done this." It automatically keeps count for you. And then you can type all of your notes. They just did an upgrade to the system where now you can type in specific goals, specific things that you're working on, so that the next time you meet with your mentor or mentee, you know exactly where you left off in the conversation. If you're Rosa, you have up to 15. I have 4 right now. And sometimes it's hard to keep track of where all my mentees are and then the workload that I do. And so going back into the notes, I can go in and look at, okay, this person is really struggling here. Where did we leave off of? And where do I need to connect this person to? So it's a great frame of reference. And I also love that visually when you log into the system, you can see what the goals are that the mentee set. So you know going in who your mentee is and what they're actually needing help with. So you can do a little bit of research behind the scenes to make sure you have all the skills and all the tools you need to make sure that your mentee is successful while you're their mentor.
Thank you, Rosa. That's awesome. I'll also say something as a mentor on the platform too, because I know Rosa, you're a mentor as well. One of the nice things for me is also having the reminder of the resource library that you have. So it has like a lot that Mentor Collective provides in there, but also something like Colleges in Idaho has custom, what we call at Mentor Collective customized resources, but it's resources from campus that are tied into that resource library. And the AI customization, like the prompt stuff. So when you're taking these notes, and you're doing that preparation, you can actually find those a lot faster too and be able to apply them. I just did that last night with a different mentee, and I was like, oh, that's such a clutch feature. But to that point, it helps with the resource utilization and makes it less guesswork and more focused on like how you can be fully present with your mentee or mentees, depending on how many that you have. So thank you, Rosa, for sharing all that. That like resonated as I was doing that last night. I was like, oh, that's a really good point. Um, Something that I want to highlight real quick, because I do want to get to some of the other questions. When we work with Rosa and her team, she gets a customer success manager. Shout out to Avis, very good
Yes,
friend of
shout out to
ours.
my rep.
Yes, fellow Texan with me down in the Houston area. But so Rosa gets to work with Avis on a biweekly basis or whatever cadence works best for Rosa. There's also at minimum half a dozen to even up, depending on how large your program is, to a dozen operations associates on the back end. You get someone like me who supports from both the contractual end, but also like who else can we pull in from campus and other folks within the network to support your programs to really help execute. And again, to Rosa's earlier point, take the heavy lifting off. But here's just a few highlights in terms of the program over the last few years. To Rosa's point, at the very beginning, there was a lot of flags that were reported. It is significantly lower now. I think, looking at the conversations log, so Rosa does a really good job of analyzing what are the trends and things like that. You can see a lot of these students now having the familiarity after years 1 and 2 now know where to directly report folks, and students are becoming more familiar. So that's like sort of the tie in there. But it still also allows for them when there's like immediate priority flags where it's like, hey, I need immediate help. What Rosa reflected the other day, I was chatting with her, was like how that's improved year over year, which is really, really nice. One of the pieces I'll end up saying here that's amazing to me, so almost it's over now. It's over 1,600 log conversations over the entirety of the program. But the SMS exchanges, so like even when folks aren't logging conversations, the fact that mentees and mentors are still like that's a mentee reaching out to Rosa and be like, hey, I got this job or I got this position in this club or something like that. Like they're having those interactions like impromptu in the moment. And like I don't know, for me, as I was reflecting this with my stepfather, who's a retired dean of Hastings College, the premier law school in the University of California system. I was telling him about this stuff. And he's like, that's kind of the feel good stuff I wish somebody would have reported to me, right? Like knowing that a student is reaching out to a faculty or staff member. Because like if you look here on the program at a glance, Rosa has paid mentors who are being trained and are being developed in leadership and professionally. But then there's also faculty and staff members. And how awesome is it when like you as a faculty or staff member or even administrator are getting that positive update in your life, knowing that the conversations that you just had with your mentee is helping them improve and giving that affinity back. So I just want to highlight this real quick before I dive into the next question, which is why and how is Mentor Collective involved in your program, Rosa? How did we get lucky enough to fit into your ecosystem that you and Jonathan have worked so hard on to create such a really vibrant, I'll say this for a community college, CSI has a really vibrant student life. But like, how did we fit into that equation?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were looking at platforms, we were looking at something one. My day to day is very non-typical. No 2 days are the same. No 2 hours are the same. And so I was looking for a platform that had a lot of the heavy weight lifted on off of me so that I can actually make sure that I'm communicating with students on a daily. And so when we were looking at it, Mentor Collective fit that customization. So we can, like Andrew said earlier, like we can customize when we first start our program, which we renew every single year. We can change our matching survey to fit what we need them to fill out and the data that we need to collect to make informed decisions. But also, when he said shout out to Avis, like Avis is my rep that I meet with. Right now, we meet on a monthly basis. But being able to pick her brain about what other institutions are doing, what trends they're seeing, because me in Idaho, the college though in Idaho, like I only see the students that I interact with. And so being able to pick her brain about what trends are happening, what new implementations are happening. And it's always like a two-way street for us. It's never me saying, Avis, I need this. It's, hey Avis, what do we think about this? How do we look at this? So I'm struggling with this, and that the program in and of itself and what it does is amazing, but I also love the representation that I can ask at any point for support from their program support team or from my rep. And I know that I'm going to get almost an immediate answer from them of what is going on. And I love that because we're always, as you all are in higher education, you're always busy. New things are popping up. You're trying new things, and being able to have that support, I think, is very crucial. But also what they stand for, what they do, how they communicate with our students, the resources that they invest to put into the program that we can share so that I'm not having to go out and do a Google search on interview tips or hear something like for your first conversations. It's all embedded in that platform, and we can share that with our students. And we can either choose to be in the platform every single day, or if we have the texting feature enabled, which we do, I can keep all of my conversations with our mentees there at the ease of an access of just my phone and not having to be behind a computer. I'm typically not just sitting at my desk. I'm literally running around everywhere. And so the fact that my mentee can reach out to me with a quick text message to ask me a question that they're struggling with, that they don't have to come make an appointment or come see me face to face, especially with the students that we're dealing with now, that is crucial, and that's a key component of why we love what we do and why Mentor Collective was chosen, is that we have a text messaging feature that we don't get charged extra. It's part of our program that we do. So again, it just aligns with exactly what we're wanting to do and the feasibility of accessing students with what they always are on, and that's their phone.
Thanks, Rosa. I appreciate that. And it's I'll say on the flip side with Mentor Collective, when I ask potential new partners when they're inquiring to join us, it's really critical that there's a mission and a drive at the institution as well. This is very much a partnership. Like when I was a partner with Mentor Collective at my institution, it was very much like a collaborative effort. Like Rosa mentioned, Avis and that customer success team does a phenomenal job to bring up what are some insights, what are some trends and things that are coming up at similar institutions, and bridging those gaps. That's a big part of my job too, is that like how can we get, like for example today, the reason I'm so excited to have Rosa here is because how can we put her and her program on a platform that can help her peer institutions. Y'all are doing wonderful work. And it's like hopefully one, if not all of y'all can see this today and be like, this can be something that's really beneficial to us. But we won't know that unless we are in higher ed. We take pride in sharing our best practices with each other. So I want to say I appreciate the kind words, Rosa, but it also goes back to you and to our partners who dedicate the time and truly prioritize their students in the whole 360-degree facet. This next slide I'm going to brief over, but this is a great example when it's coming from a flagging perspective. So these are some examples that we've seen. So like, for example, there's the forensics team, there's counseling services and whatnot. There's a variety of topics that folks can flag upon. So again, as Rosa was talking about, the way that she downloads them and reports and triages them as she works cross-functionally with her institution. These are some of the things that folks will jot down and let you know as they're also logging their general conversations simultaneously. This is one of my favorite examples, Rosa. I couldn't help but keep this. This is a mentorship from last year, but it's one of my favorites, and the reason being is, and Rosa, I'll give you the floor in just one second. The two things I like to highlight are the assessment surveys. We haven't even really gone into these like
Mhm.
quick 60-second assessment surveys that we give to our students. And what this does on top of the mentorships or the matching surveys and the log conversations, it's another way that we can assess and get a temperature check on how our students are doing. So the numbers that you see here are what Sierra texted in her assessment survey. And what it does is it allows us from a Likert scale of 1 to 5 to evaluate how are our students doing. And so we alert Rosa and her team of these low scores when they go into the dashboard. So we can see here with Sierra that she has 2 scores that are below a 3. And so that allows for Rosa to think about in her team, okay, how can we support students like Sierra? Also download a list of multiple students who are going through this case, and how can we create an infrastructure that's going to help Sierra maybe not get to a 5. I obviously would be phenomenal if we did at the middle or end of program survey, but where can we move the marker so that she can start improving and getting on the north side of 3? So I'll pause there because again, Rosa, these are your 2 students. Anything else that you wanted to highlight with this particular mentorship?
Yeah, interestingly enough, before I walked back into my office, I ran into Sierra, who's still a student here, and the confidence level of Sierra when we first met her to now and the involvement. She's involved in a very specific club here on campus that I would probably say her sense of belonging is probably closer to a 5 right now. Just watching her do some after hours programming with them. And so just being able to see the students and seeing them when they first walk into the program to where they're at is something that we love to see. We love to highlight that connection, the being more in tune with what resources they actually have on campus, and the support is really key for what we do.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay. I think this is the last question. If not, I apologize. I think this is though. What is the impact you've seen peer relationships have on engagement? I feel like you've touched on this a little bit more, but I guess to really put a bow on it, how would you describe this, Rosa?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned this a little bit about this earlier. We have a lot of our individuals who have been mentees actually transition to become mentors and turn that favor around and help somebody else be able to find the resources on campus, but also create that sense of belonging. We've seen a lot more engagement from our individuals who tend to be a little bit more quiet. I have 3 right now. One of them is in the social work program, so exactly what I went to school for. And so being able to connect my experience to her experience and but also keeping in how do I say it, like turning that switch off that I'm the dean of students and actually being a mentor to her in regards to what they're actually seeing more from a peer perspective. 'Cause she's about my age as well. And so being able to positively impact individuals to find different pathways or look at things a different way that they may be struggling. We've seen a huge increase in that. We've also seen just the increase of comfortability navigating resources on campus and our mentors actually walking individuals to the departments or to the services and allowing their mentees to take the lead. And if their mentees are struggling, they'll step in and kind of help navigate those conversations. But just from a friendship connection to seeing mentors take their mentees to events and activities is heartwarming. And that's something that I love. And it's something that most people are like, well, I've never been to an event, so I really don't know how to go to an event. Like, what is this event pass you guys are talking about? Why do I need my student ID? And the mentors can explain that to them and bring that like anxiety and uncomfortability down, where the student actually feels like they have a friend that they can go to participate in events and activities. So I would say the comfortability, but also just in general, the major connections and support that we've seen throughout our program with you guys. You're on mute, Andrew.
Of course I am. Thank you. I and Rosa, that's a great way to wrap this thing up. What I'll also say is some of you might I of course I'll state my bias. I'm all for students have all kinds of mentors and mentees that they can work with. So, Rosa was talking about peer to peer. She's now looking into like, expanding that now because a lot of the insights we got from those peer to peers was like helping to transform and be like, how can we know workforce development is a critical mission piece for us. Now we have the evidence in terms of what the students are looking for. And so, Rosa and Jonathan and then the workforce development team are now crafting on their end of like, if we expand this with Mentor Collective, how can we do that? But to that point, we hear that with a peer-to-peer. I want to also encourage you all, maybe your starting point is with career mentorship, which is great. We can do everything simultaneously or start where that initial pain point may be, and it might be career. We also find with the career mentors, because they have an affinity to your institutions, that it also helps break down those barriers and get those students more ready and prepared, and also most importantly, impact your local communities, keep the talent at home, keep that affinity, which is always a critical piece. But with that, I want to wrap up. I know we're at time. I want to thank Rosa so much for her time. Thank you, Chris, for giving us this platform to share with this group. Thanks to everybody who attended. And as I think my amazing friend Christine posted in the chat, we will be sharing the slides out with everybody and our contact information. So if you have questions for me, for Rosa, or Mentor Collective in general, we would love to have a conversation with you and find ways to how we can support your initiatives. But Chris, I'll pass the ball over to you, sir. But thank you so much for having me.